Well, I've got another camper van to build. So here it is, it's a 2013 Vauxhall Vivaro that I'm going to convert into the ultimate stealth camper van. And what I mean by that is that from the outside it's going to look like your everyday tradesman's van with sign writing and everything. But inside I'm going to convert it into a luxurious little home on wheels, which will allow you to pretty much just park anywhere you want. Now I am going to have to get very creative with making this look like a tradesman's van, but still making it functional for me to use as a camper van. One of the biggest things is I am going to be removing this bulkhead, but I'm going to be building a partition wall with a door so that I can get in from the front of the cab into the back, so that if I do park up in a car park or in a crowded area, I don't have to get out the van and then come in through the side or back door. I can literally just get out my driver's seat and just pop straight into the back. Now this all depends on whether I can find a single seat for the front. At the moment most Vivaros of this age come with a double front seat, so there are companies out there that do single front seats. It's just about finding it, and I don't really want to pay an arm and a leg for a seat, but one way or another I'll get a seat and it'll work. Now one of the first things I like to do when I get a new van is to have a sit inside and just sort of see if I can visualize where everything's going to go. This will be the third one of these Vivaros I've made, but this one's a little bit different because it is a long wheelbase, which means that I do have about an extra foot of space to play with, which makes, believe it or not, a huge amount of difference. So what I've done in this van, because it's filthy and I don't really want to sit on the floor, is I've put this chair in here just so that I can just sort of sit here. I've been sitting here and just sort of visualizing where the bed's going to go, where the kitchen's going to go, and I think I've got a plan. This is going to be the rough size of the van. Currently, as it is at the moment, we have a driver's seat and we have a double passenger seat. The bulkhead's going to be in the middle, just like that, and I want to have a door that opens up right there. Now the only way this is going to work is if we get rid of the double seat and replace it with a single, so then I can get right through into the back of the van. The next thing I'm thinking is I want a little corner bed at the back. So it pulls out this way to make a complete double bed. And here behind the bulkhead and between the bed will be the kitchen, and a possible another kitchen pod on that side as well. And then that way I've got room on this side so that I can have like a little TV or something. And I just think it'll give the space a really nice sort of view. I mean, currently as it stands at the moment, that design isn't set in stone. That's just one that I've wanted to do for a little while, but I also quite like the idea of like a U-shaped sort of sofa at the back as well, which turns into a bed. It all depends on what kitchen I want to design and where I want to go with that. But one of the main things about this van, which is going to make it different from any of the other ones I've done, is it is literally going to be completely powered off a power station, which is charged from the solar and also charged whilst driving the van. A lot of people always wonder how I get those top-down shots. Sometimes if you haven't got the equipment to do it properly, you just have to get creative. The job for today is I'm going to rip out all the ply. I'm probably going to leave the bulkhead to last because this van is really filthy and I don't really want to, if I'm going to be like sort of pressure washing or cleaning in the back here, depending on how dirty it is, I don't want all of that spray going up into the cab, so I'm going to leave that in for the minute. But if you look at the door cards, they're filthy. I started sort of chipping away at some of this flooring and, you know, there's plaster everywhere. This van's going to need a really, really good clean. But I think what I'm going to do, once all this ply has been ripped out, I'm just going to replace it with a nice brand new ply lining kit. They're not the cheapest in the world. I probably could buy my own ply, keep this, use it as a template, trace around it and replace it. But to be fair, for the cost and the time, it's probably more worthwhile just buying one that I can just have delivered and just screw it straight in. But that won't be until later on down the line once I've done all the installation and everything anyway. So I guess all there is really to do now is start ripping it out. There is also a problem with this door. It kind of catches. So when it's being shut, hear that? It's like a bang, bang. And what I've worked out it is, down here, where the screws hold this metal plate in, this roller is hitting those screws, And the only thing I can think of is that because there's all this plaster up behind here, it's almost like pushed this unit out and maybe made the screws pop out a little bit proud. So I think once all this is cleaned up, if I do up those screws, that might take out that little bump in the door. But anyway, I've got a huge amount of work cut out for me, so I'm just going to start ripping it apart. Jesus. We have your regular dust, easy clean for that. Cobwebs, easy clean. This, on the other hand, is it's plaster, but look, it just comes off my finger. So that should be an easy clean as well. If I'm honest with myself, and I'm honest with you, the rip out is probably my most enjoyable part of the job. Normally, I don't like the cleaning part, but I just love ripping out all the old ply. And I kind of missed that in the last build because I kept a lot of it. Whereas, because I'm not planning on keeping any of this, I can be as rough with it as I want. There's one screw that won't come out. It does seem a little bit strange that this part here is painted black with quite a bit of overspray at the top here. So I do wonder if maybe this panel has been replaced at some point, because there's a bit of a dent here as well. I mean, it doesn't make a difference to the build whether that's been replaced or not, but it just makes you wonder about the history of this van. But when all the checks were done on this vehicle, it didn't flag up there had been any accidents or anything, so it may have just been like a rust problem or something, and they just needed to replace the panel. Either that, or it was a factory thing. I mean, I don't know. It's the first time I've seen that. So, and like I said, this is the third one of these I'm doing up. Right, well, this is the part that I'm kind of not looking forward to, ripping this floor up, because I don't think it's going to come out in one piece. If in doubt, the camera shot. I figured it'd be easier to rip all this out and then worry about the screws afterwards, because they're all rusty and horrible anyway. Yep, definitely no saving this floor, is there? Well, I've seen cleaner vans. Hopefully most of this comes up quite easily. And there's always going to be a dirtier area around the wheel arches and everything. But so far, it doesn't appear like they've actually, oh no, tell a lie, they did screw into the wheel arch, so that'll need sorting out. It's one of these things where these vans, when people install their own ply lining kit or they get a garage to do it or whatever, they just don't care. They literally screw it straight in through the the wheel arch, which then can create leaks and things. So if I do take these screws out, which I'll probably need to, it's going to create a hole, which means that when you're driving along, all the crap from off your wheel will then fly in through these holes and make your van damp, and it'll just rust out the hole. So I'll need to do something about that as well. But I mean, I don't really know where you start with this. I'm going to just start sweeping this corner. Oh, that's quite satisfying. So that is all the crud that I've got from this side. Looks a lot cleaner. I mean, it still needs a good, give it a bit of a scrub, but most of it came up with a crowbar, so it's not too bad. I mean, that corner there is going to be really savage, and so is back there, but other than that, it's actually coming up pretty easily. See, I thought that was a bit of the van that was all rusting, but it's actually a jigsaw blade. Okay, so I've undone these, and this is a little bit sketchy because the door really dropped when I undid that. But I've got to get all this out from under there because that's what's making the door catch when it's opening. So now cleaned behind there, remounted the bar, and it's still catching. Well, it is better, but it is still catching on those bolts. So when I was hosing everything down, I was pretty careful not to get any water down in there because I'm not sure if there's any drain holes, and I didn't really want to get puddles like I've managed to get down there, so that's going to need soaking up. If you can see that, there is a puddle down there now, so that's not ideal. Check this side. Yep, puddle as well. Yeah, it's fine. Okay. I mean, look at how clean that is. I don't think I'm going to get it much cleaner than that. I do need to now paint all of the bare metal parts, like around here. All of this needs painting before it starts going rusty. I think I've just come up with a new slogan for this channel. And it'll be Love Sundays, giving vans a second life. Today's video is sponsored by nobody. It's like, well, okay, maybe it's sponsored by me for my merchandise. So head over to my website, www.lovesundays.uk, and grab yourself some awesome Love Sundays merch, all ready for Christmas. Maybe it's not for you, maybe it's for a loved one. They'll love it. Thank you to me for sponsoring today's video. So I have actually painted all of the rust patches on the van. Well, I say rust patches, there wasn't really any rust, but there was a few bits where there were bare metal because of where the floor was or whether things have just rubbed over time. So I actually painted it over with this #1 rust beater, which is a Hammerite product. But before that I did actually coat everything in Cure Rust as well for any of the rusty areas. But what I also did is I drew these little arrows in the areas where the screw holes were, so that it reminds me to then go around and fill up those holes with some CT1. It should pretty much seal the holes pretty well, and it just saves any extra water or rust building up under the floor once the new floor's down. The next job for me to do will be removing the bulkhead, and I know I said I'm going to build a partition with a door in it, and you might be thinking, well, why don't I just keep the bulkhead in cut a hole so then I can then use that to get to and from the front and the back of the van. And there's a reason why I don't want to keep this in. And the main reason is, you see how this sort of comes out like this? It's shaped like that just for so it doesn't hit the back of the chairs. So my partition's literally just going to come all the way down. Because that way, if there's a hole in there, it doesn't really matter, but then I've then got to think about how am I going to make a door that's sort of shaped like that? Near on impossible. Well, probably not impossible, but way out of the reaches of what I can do. Or I could put a curtain across, but then it's just not gonna hang properly. It's gonna leave lots of gaps and let lots of light through. So the best thing to do is just to remove it, build a wooden partition which is nice and flat. Now these bulkheads normally come out pretty easily. There's normally just a few of these hex screws and then a couple of rivets that I'll need to drill out, and then it should just all pop out. Might need an impact driver. If in doubt, try a different drill. It's always the way, isn't it? If you need an impact driver and you haven't got one, what do? There we go. You use your other drill. For God's sake. So it would appear that some of these are seized in place, so I'm just going to drill them out. At the end of the day, as long as I get the screw out, then it's not going to matter. Okay, I bit the bullet. I think it's about time I make this perfectly clear that this is not going to be a budget build. If this doesn't do it, I'm going to be really upset. How many have we got left? 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 5. So there's 5 left. So each one of these screws is essentially costing me 20 quid. Ah, boom! Ah, you beauty. So that one job in total cost me £112. But at least I've got this going forward now anyway. Right, so that's all of them out, all except for the one that I started to drill. Worst case scenario, I could cut this metal away, but I don't really want to do that. Got ya. I got ya. What a nightmare that was. Hey, clean seats. Backs of the seats always look good when you take a bulkhead out. What I'll do is I'll just store this for the time being, because I will just need this edge for a scribe when I actually make my partition wall. Well, I'd say that's probably enough for the first video. What a difference this van now looks from when we started. I mean, this has by far been the dirtiest van I've ever converted, and I've never, in the 5 vans that I've done up, ever had a bulkhead that was that difficult to get out. But we got there in the end. I'm thinking for the next video, not only am I going to have to change my sunglasses because these are broken now, but I'm going to get up onto the roof and start planning and fitting my solar. I've got a skylight I need to put in. I want to get all these things done before I start putting anything on the inside of this van. So that's going to be the plan for the next video. I hope you all come along to watch that one. I'd also like to say thank you to everyone that supported the channel, either through Patreon or through Buy Me a Beer. It's all really, really appreciated. But other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Cheers! It feels so good to be building vans again.